Looking for a degree program that rewards you for what you already know? At WGU, all of our bachelor's and master's programs are competency-based, allowing you to progress at your own pace. Washingtonians know how valuable time and money are, and so do we. At WGU, your hard work and experience can help you finish your degree faster and for less. Join a community of driven professionals from across the DMV who are unlocking new career opportunities today. See how your knowledge can give you an edge at wgu.edu.
Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, live here on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And yes, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Stocks kissing up to record highs today as the rally continues after the ceasefire announced this week between Israel and Iran, brokered by President Trump, continues to hold. Today, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump reportedly working on a plan to end the war in Gaza and expand the Abraham Accords. According to the Times of Israel, one report claims a deal is imminent, despite mediators saying no progress made in talks in Cairo. The Prime Minister said to be hoping to receive a pardon as well in Israel. The stock market rallying today with the platinum hitting an 11-year high. We see platinum making a big move on the upside this year, outshining even gold and silver. Platinum up another $25 here now, above $1,400 an ounce, $1,424.50. Gold hovering at around $3,300 or so, and moving a bit lower today. And silver at $36.56 an ounce. We'll talk more about that coming up later this hour with Barry Stuppler with Mint State Gold in the San Fernando Valley. The Dow coming in for a closing gain today of 404 points. The S&P 500 of 49 is just a fraction below its all-time high at 6,141. The Nasdaq up nearly 200 points. The yield on the 10-year note continues to ease. It looks like mortgage rates have come down again this week based on the latest survey from mortgage giant Freddie Mac. The volatility index pulling back about 1% today. For the first time in more than 4 months, the S&P 500 briefly blew past its all-time record high by just a fraction. The large cap benchmark index hit a session high of 6,144.66 in afternoon trade before settling just a fraction below that, just below its all-time high. Stocks gained during the trading day as the White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said the president's July 9th deadline is not critical for countries to strike trade deals with the U.S. to avoid reciprocal tariffs. The dollar, meanwhile, is at the lowest we've seen since April of 2022. The dollar hitting a 3-year low today. The yield in the 10-year note is back down to 4.25%. On all this, NVIDIA hitting another all-time high today, above $155 a share. The leader in AI chips extending its rally. And we're also seeing NVIDIA now topping the list of most valuable companies once again, taking the crown from Microsoft. NVIDIA shares at a record high close, $155.02, and Microsoft up more than 5 today at $497.45. On the earnings front, Nike reports fourth quarter results that were not as bad as Wall Street analysts had expected. Looks like Nike shares getting a boost. We also got some new readings on the economy today, health of the economy coming out today based on the U.S. Economic reading. The economy shrank 0.5% in the first quarter, according to the government's final estimate of GDP. That was worse than previously expected. Jobless claims rose, with continuing claims rising to the highest seen since late 2021. Tomorrow we'll be getting what we're told is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, the personal consumption expenditures report. That is the new reading on inflation that will be coming out tomorrow. Yes, mortgage rates did drop for the fourth week in a row, and we see the average 30-year fix now 6.77%, and the average 15-year fix now at 5.89%. Take a closer look at what's happening on the real estate scene here in Los Angeles, with LA's so-called mansion tax continuing to be a big factor, drawing heavy criticism for the real estate business, also facing legal challenges. Coming up later this hour, I'll be speaking with prominent LA attorney Keith Fromm, who's leading the charge against ULA. He'll be joining us live later this hour. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, and the whole works now. Joining us live for our occasional Frank and Stein conversation. We do it as needed. The one and only Ben Stein, financial and political commentator, economist, attorney, author of numerous books, and yes, Actor, too, that Ben Stein played the economics professor in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where he delivered one of the most famous scenes in American cinema. Ben Stein is on the line. Good afternoon to you, sir. Ben Stein.
How are you, my friend?
Wonderful. Wonderful to hear your voice again, Ben. Thank you so much for taking the call. It's been a while since we've chatted behind live microphones, and lots happened just in the last week or so. Give us your impression of the world here at the moment.
Well, I think we've made incredible progress in the Middle East. I think for President Trump to have authorized the bombing of those nuclear facilities was an act of statesmanship rarely seen in the whole history of the United States. Will it last? Will Iran actually behave? I'd say it's. I wouldn't bet my life on it. The story of a possible expansion of the Abraham Accords to enlarge the zone of peace in the Middle East is very, very good news. On the other hand, there's still these crazy Houthis, or Houthis, however you pronounce them, who are have got their finger on the oil supply coming out of the Middle East. That's a scary thing because oil is already very, very high. And I think the big, beautiful bill, Mr. Trump's big, beautiful bill, is a worrisome sign. This country is expanding its indebtedness to the world at such a fast rate that it seems to me the word bankruptcy is going to have to be coming up eventually. It is not impossible that even a country as rich as the United States would have to declare bankruptcy. Russia did it, Argentina did it, many countries have done it. I think it could happen, and that's worrisome. But I say day by day, life in America is quite wonderful. And as a person who is an American, I would say I made a huge mistake not having enough liquid assets when I was planning my financial future, and having too much in real estate. Real estate's done really, really well, but will it continue doing as well? I wonder. I really, really wonder.
On the air live with the one and only Ben Stein for our Frank and Stein conversation here live on 790 KABC. We hear the dollar today hit a 3-year low. Are you watching what's happening with gold, silver, and platinum? Platinum all of a sudden shining to an 11-year high above 1,400. Gold at the moment near its all-time high, around 3,300 or so. They hit a record high above 3,500 in the last month or so. Silver at 36 and change. Are you doing anything with the precious metals here, Ben Stein?
Well, I do have a little bit of gold, and I had my doubts about it, but it has redeemed my doubts and then some. So I am still a fan of it. It's Mr. Buffett and I have discussed it a number of times. As he aptly says, it pays no dividends, but people like it as a store of value. They not only like it, they love it. So I'm inclined to say that if I were a younger man and had my choices again, I would get more gold and perhaps a little less real estate. I have, for a man my age, I have way too much real estate, but I love real estate. I love Southern California real estate in particular, and I'm happy when I'm in my houses. Sad when I think that I'll have to eventually sell them to put the money aside for estate tax and so forth. But I don't know. I think things, considering all the uncertainty in the world, investments have been doing very, very well. But the number one investment Americans have to make is in their education and their productivity as individual human beings. There are just too darn many Americans who don't bother getting an education, don't bother learning any particularly valuable skills. There are too many of them, and they're going to pay for it.
You've certainly taken your own advice over the years. We're on the air live with Ben Stein. Now, let me ask you about the price of oil, which had that big spike after the U.S. Obliterated Iran's nuclear program and now has pulled back to around $65 a barrel or so. Are you surprised by the reaction we've seen in the oil markets coming right back down, hit a high for the year and then came right back down here, Ben Stein? And what do you see ahead for the price of oil here?
I love oil. I think oil is so valuable. As any country that is loaded with oil, like so many Middle Eastern countries, and like the United States of America, which has an enormous amount of oil, they're in for good times. I mean, if you follow the history of world conflicts, especially the Second World War, the countries that had the most oil had an enormous advantage over everybody else, and I think it's going to continue being that way. If I were a person who had the ability to access a lot of oil, I'd be a happy guy. My wife's family, I don't know whether to say I'm happy or sad about this, but when they all passed away, they left my wife a very small amount of oil, and it's been a wonderful thing to have, and it's not enough to make us, well, it's meaningful. But anyway, oil is a gorgeous, gorgeous thing. And why did it sink down again? Because we can produce so much of it.
Looking for a degree program that rewards you for what you already know? At WGU, all of our bachelor's and master's programs are competency-based, allowing you to progress at your own pace. Washingtonians know how valuable time and money are, and so do we. At WGU, your hard work and experience can help you finish your degree faster and for less. Join a community of driven professionals from across the DMV who are unlocking new career opportunities today. See how your knowledge can give you an edge at wgu.edu.
I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I am Tom Welling.
Welcome to Talkville,
where it's fun to talk about Smallville.
We're going to be talking to sometimes guest stars.
Are you liking the direction Lois is going in?
Yeah, because I'm getting more screen time.
It's good.
But mostly it's just me and Tom remembering.
I think we all feel like there was a scene missing here.
You got me, Tom.
Let's revisit it. Let's look at it. See what we remember.
See what we remember.
I had never been around anything like that before. I mean, it was so fun.
Talkville.
I just had a flashback.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Let's get into it.
The supply is virtually endless. The world, and the United States in particular, sits on an enormous lake of oil.
On your line with Ben Stein, what do you see ahead for Iran? By the way, is the Shah's son going to ultimately take over there? What do you see ahead for the leadership in Iran?
I think the mullahs have a police state with such incredible powers to clamp down on anyone who disagrees with them. I don't see the Shah's son taking over anytime soon. I'd love to see it. It would be wonderful, but I don't see it happening. The mullahs are running an Iron Curtain type state. Very hard to rebel against such a state. The mullahs have all the guns. They have all the secret police. They have all the machine guns. If you make a slightest move against them, you're going to be tortured or killed. I don't see anything great coming out of Iran anytime soon.
You touched on it at the beginning, this big, beautiful bill. You cover Washington very, very closely. You're following these developments here. It passed the House, now being considered by the Senate and facing quite a few headwinds here. A lot riding on that big, beautiful bill. What do you see ahead for this big, beautiful bill?
I think it's going to have to be changed, and there are going to have to be some serious modifications in it. The country just cannot afford to keep spending all this money that it doesn't have, and we're just playing with imaginary dollars, and a lot of them at this point. It's not the behavior of a responsible government. Now, I'm an old man. I can remember Dwight Eisenhower saying, we're going to have a balanced budget this year. I can remember even John F. Kennedy saying that. We need to at least consider the idea of a balanced budget instead of a budget that's 3, 4, 5, 6, billion, trillion out of balance. We can't keep doing this forever. But my father, God bless his soul, said if something cannot go on forever, it will stop. And so these deficits cannot go on forever, and they will stop. But whether they will stop with America having to declare a bankruptcy, I do not know, but I could well see it happening.
On their line with Ben Stein, and looks like Los Angeles having financial difficulties, declaring a fiscal crisis this week, and a $1 billion budget hole here in the city of Los Angeles. I know you follow things at the local. You're one of us here in Southern California. What about L.A. possibly filing for bankruptcy?
I could well see it happening, and I don't think that the mansion tax is a way out of it. I have to say that as a person who owns a couple of mansions, but I don't think I'll own them forever, obviously. But we do have spent a lot more money than we've got here in glorious LA, and I don't know how to solve the problem. We already have very, very high taxes, but I suspect they're going to go even higher. I mean, there has to be some point at which the spending has to coincide with the revenues. we're not at that point, but we've got to get to that point. And what are we spending now but imaginary dollars? And yet the imaginary dollars have to be repaid at some point.
You're live with Ben Stein, and you are one of us. And I know you love Southern California, and you have your properties here as well as elsewhere. But certainly a lot of people are considering leaving because of taxes and other considerations. As a matter of fact, tax and regulations are number one on the list of business concerns based on one of the big business polls we saw here recently. What made you decide that you were going to stay here and not move to Florida or any place else, and be able to try to make it here all these years?
Well, I love it here. People are beautiful people. I'll just tell you a kind of humorous note. Your humble servant that's talking to you right now has lunch almost every day at the pool at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is only 2 blocks from my house. And I see very, very beautiful girls walking around the pool and having very serious conversations, among other things, about taxes. And I think to myself, why would I want to go back to Washington, D.C., or Florida or Dallas when I can be here in this glamour spot? I feel like I'm living inside a movie. I mean, my life changed at a certain point when I became a movie actor, although I'm not a very good movie actor. And I love being here inside a movie. I'm like living a movie of my life. There's the life of Ben Stein, which I never thought would happen like this. And here I am. And why should I leave it? Why should I leave it? The main problem I have now at this point is finding a decent doctor. I have my wonderful doctor, my doctor for about 40 years, passed away quite suddenly. And I'd like to find a new doctor. That seems like a trivial thing to say. Southern California, God, there must be a billion doctors. And there are. But getting in to see them, not that easy to do. Shortage of medical care, that's a big, big problem. Shortage of housing. And housing is really an amazing thing here. I talk to people young people, even young doctors or young lawyers, and I ask them if they live in a house or a condo. And when I mention the idea of them living in a house, they laugh at me. They scoff at me. No, it can't be done. That's just not on the table for anybody. Unless you're born rich.
On the You're Live with Ben Stein. I'm with you here, Ben. That is, it's wonderful to feel that way about, and by the way, the real estate people here will tell you actually all real estate here in the Los Angeles area is free, believe it or not. What you pay for is the weather. And we can say that certainly on a gorgeous day like this. And you mentioned acting, and of course, everybody knows you from the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You improvised that lecture, right, about trade policy and then took the role.
Yep.
Yeah, now tariffs, of course, very much in focus. What are your thoughts about how the tariff story has evolved here? And maybe you can give us a lesson here now.
Well, it was completely unnecessary for Mr. Trump to play these games about tariffs. I don't know why he was doing it. I think he thought he got enough attention as it was being president of the most important country in the world, but apparently not. Apparently he felt he needed more attention. So I would say in 2024, a newly elected president, decided that he was going to shake things up for no apparent good reason by proposing stupendous tariffs, and so that the government would be paid for not by taxation, but by tariffs. It didn't work. And you know what? Everyone knew it wouldn't work. Everyone knew it was a game that Mr. Trump was playing. And God bless him. I love him a lot for his strength and statesmanship about the Middle East. But what he's doing about tariffs is just a joke.
We're going to find out in a couple of weeks what the next move on the chessboard will be. So we'll have to have you back on at that time, of course. And in the meantime, every time you're on, people want to know if it's really you and whether you could take the role at this time.
I would take the role by saying Adams, Adamley, Adamowski, Brown, Bueller. And you know what? That changed my life. That wouldn't have happened if I lived in Baltimore. Wouldn't have happened if I lived in New York City. It happened only because I live in Spaceship Hollywood, orbiting around the world, and I got to have a ride in Spaceship Hollywood.
Anyone? Ben Stein?
Anyone seen Ferris around Anyone? No. Does anyone know the results of trying to pay for the government by tariffs? Anyone? No, nobody does, because it can't be done. It's never been done. Let's just get to work and try to act like serious people.
Ben Stein, present and accounted for, live on the air here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC for our We Do It As Needed, the Frank and Stein conversation here live on Mottek On Money. Ben, wonderful to speak with you again, and let's do it again very soon.
God bless you, and God bless America.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Ben Stein live on the line, 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KBC, and be sure to stay tuned at 6 o'clock this evening for the Just Help One radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. I'll be on the air again at 6 o'clock this evening, every Thursday evening at 6, with Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission. Also joining us in the show this evening, Richard Newcomb, Vice President of Philanthropy and Social Enterprise, other special guests telling the uplifting and inspiring success stories of the Union Rescue Mission tonight at 6 o'clock right here on 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues here with the Dow up more than 400 points at the bell today, back to 43,387. The S&P 500 briefly kissed new record high territory, up nearly 50 points at the bell to 6,141, just a fraction below its all-time high. And the Nasdaq also popped up 194 points at 20,168. The volatility index pulling back 1%. The yield in the 10-year note retreating to 4.24%. That's the one that impacts the fixed-rate mortgage rates, and they, too, have come down over the past week. The price of gold, meanwhile, down about $10 now at $3,336 and change. Platinum continues on a roll, up nearly $25 at $1,424.50. Remember, it was below $1,000 not too long ago. Silver down 3 cents at $36.56. Checking the cryptos now, Bitcoin down about 500 at 107,067. Ethereum hovering at around 2,418. Doge at the moment at 16 cents. Nvidia at a record high today, moving up 71 cents at 155 and change. Now the most valuable company once again, taking the crown from Microsoft, which also moved higher today at 497 and change. Apple down 56 cents at 201. Tesla down nearly $2 at 325.78. And Netflix popping, I believe, a new record high here, up more than $31 at 1306 and change. And now the latest news on 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KBC. Good afternoon. Indications that the president could move early to name a successor to Fed Chairman Jerome Powell sent the dollar moving lower today, in fact, at a 3-year low against other major currencies. Platinum, meanwhile, is shining big time, up another $25 or so now to $1,424 and change. Gold still hovering near its recent all-time high, which was above $3,500, right now at around $3,336. Silver's had a big run this year as well, right now hovering at around $36.50. Joining us live now, someone who's following all of this very, very closely, and that is Barry Stuppler, the founder and president of Mint State Gold by Stuppler & Company, based in the San Fernando Valley, also former president of the American Numismatic Association. Some serious coin here. Barry Stuppler, thank you very much.
Looking for a degree program that rewards you for what you already know? At WGU, all of our bachelor's and master's programs are competency-based, allowing you to progress at your own pace. Washingtonians know how valuable time and money are, and so do we. At WGU, your hard work and experience can help you finish your degree faster and for less. Join a community of driven professionals from across the DMV who are unlocking new career opportunities today. See how your knowledge can give you an edge at wgu.edu.
I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I am Tom Welling,
Welcome to Talkville.
where it's fun to talk about Smallville.
We're going to be talking to sometimes guest stars,
Are you liking the direction Lois is going in?
Yeah, because I'm getting more screen time.
It's good.
but mostly it's just me and Tom remembering.
I think we all feel like there was a scene missing here.
You got me, Tom.
Let's revisit it. Let's look at it. See what we remember.
See what we remember.
I had never been around anything like that before. I mean, it was so fun.
Talkville.
Talkville.
I just had a flashback.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Let's get into it.
Sheriff, for joining us live here this afternoon.
It's my pleasure, Frank.
Wonderful to have you with us. First of all, platinum suddenly shining big time here with a big run up above 1,400 an ounce. Remember, we were talking when it was below 1,000 not too long ago. What's your reaction to this big news here?
Yeah, this is a 10-year high for platinum. I mean, it was doing nothing
for almost 10 years, and then all of a sudden, just recently, we're getting reports out of China that because of the high price, or how they vision the high price for gold, a lot of the jewelers are starting to switch to platinum, and we're seeing a bigger consumption. Platinum is substantially scarcer than gold, and obviously any increase in demand would increase the price more dramatically. So we're seeing platinum right now, like you said, about $1,424. That's a 10-year high, and it might have some profit taking, get back down to 13, but because it moved pretty quickly, so I don't see it doing much. I mean, it could get closer to 15, but I doubt it's going to see much more than that in the near future. But the big pressure on all this is something you mentioned earlier, is the dollar. The dollar has been getting slammed. It's down 13% for the year, which in currencies, that's a lot. And most of that has to do with central banks. What your listeners might not understand is the world's largest investors in the world are not J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs or any of those large investment houses in the United States. It's the world's central banks. They control trillions of dollars worth of currency, their current domestic currency, the U.S. dollars, and gold. And recently, ever since November, and that's an interesting time, they've lost a lot of confidence in the U.S. dollar, and they're starting to switch out of paper dollars and into gold. And the amount of buying has always been pretty good through the years, but over the last 6 months or so, you've seen that number go up substantially, and a lot of movement into gold, selling the dollar, which is obviously also putting pressure on the dollar. There's a lot of things that are affecting the dollar right now, and they're all negative. And what you mentioned earlier about Jerome Powell is a good example. He's trying to get Jerome Powell to lower interest rates. That's going to even drive the dollar lower. So that's probably one of the reasons that they don't want to do it. But Trump is looking at that as a way to save on the debt, but it's going to also affect the value of gold positively, substantially positive. The further the dollar goes down, the higher the price of gold priced in dollars will get. So just an interesting time right now.
Very much so. On the live with the founder and president of Mint State Gold by STUPPLER and Company, the one and only Barry Stuppler. And getting back to platinum here for a moment, you've been doing this for a long time, and I'm sure you remember the days when platinum was double the price of gold. Might we be heading in that direction at some point?
I doubt it, only because central banks don't buy platinum. They buy gold. The jewelers are buying platinum. It's conceivable we could see platinum, when gold gets above 4,000 by the end of this year, it's conceivable we could see platinum around 1,500 or 1,600. But it's going to take a while, because the demand is there, and they're pushing out more platinum jewelry, which obviously will increase demand. But the main emphasis right now, particularly with a weaker dollar, is going to be gold. And silver is on the tail, and obviously following it up, and we're starting to see a lot more investors in silver. Silver had a nice jump here, went from $34.50 up to $36.50 for a spot price. Now you're seeing a lot more demand for silver recently. So, but the gold is the leader, and it will always be the leader, regardless if it's platinum, palladium, silver, any of those things. Gold is what pretty much sets the track in terms of which direction the market's going.
All right, since you're on the front line of this business here in the Los Angeles area, are people clamoring for gold coins? Platinum coins exist too, by the way, of course. Silver coins, what do the people want these days?
Well, there's a lot of demand for silver. We're seeing really sizable demand for silver. Most investors that are in gold are pretty much underweighted. The feeling has been about 70% gold, 30% silver, and now we're adding platinum to that, so we're looking at possibly 65%, 25%, and 10% platinum. So it's a diversification. It's a way to stay diversified, and all the metals are looking good, obviously, because the dollar is weak. And the more you're seeing demand, obviously the price on all of those will go higher, but gold is the leader. I mean, I still look for gold at 4,000 by year end. I still look for silver at at $40, and platinum probably $1,500, which is not that big of a raise, but you have to understand it's had a pretty substantial raise recently. It needs to build a base, consolidate its recent gains, and then work higher from there.
Well, we have you here, and I want to draw on your expertise. Of course, we're talking about the value of these precious metals based on their weight, but from a numismatic standpoint, where would you be placing your bets as far as potential appreciation for various coins that are available across the board?
Well, the most popular numismatic coin is the U.S. $20 gold St. Gaudens. It's a beautiful coin. It's considered the most beautiful coin the U.S. Mint has ever made. And the premium on those has come down with the price of gold going up 30 or 28% this year. The premium on those has come down substantially. So they're a real bargain right now. So we're seeing a lot of demand, and my problem in many cases is trying to keep up with supply. With the demand, particularly for U.S. $20 gold pieces, that these are coins that were made between 1908 and 1932. So they're rare. Plus the premium is very small. You're looking at a 3 to 5% premium on a coin that's legitimately scarce. So there's a good demand for that.
Any other rare coins? There are platinum coins too, right? We have the platinum eagles, I believe, and maybe you can tell us more about what the choices are there.
Well, there's a whole area of modern coins. The U.S. gold eagle, the platinum eagle, the silver eagle. Those are available. The Mint sells them, and we buy large quantities, get them put into holders, get them graded MS or Proof 70, and those are very desirable. People are building collections. Since they started making the eagle in 1986, you have people that are building silver eagle collections and Proof, gold eagle collections, and Proof and in Mint state, and the same thing with platinum. So you're starting to see a lot of activity in there, and those are coins that are certified, guaranteed Proof or MS70, and they don't have that big a premium over their actual gold or metal content. So they're great bargains also.
Love it. Barry, thank you very much for taking the call here, and we'll keep an open line to you as we follow these prices very, very closely. That is Barry Stuppler, the founder and president of Mint State Gold by Stuppler & Company, based in the San Fernando Valley. Barry Stuppler, also former president of the American Numismatic Association. Barry, thank you very much for taking the call this afternoon.
It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you very much for the call, and out to the freeways now, 790 KBC. Frank Mottek here for United Gold Group. Did you know that for more than 10,000 years, gold has been the greatest store of value and considered a safe haven asset to preserve your wealth? Well, now the U.S. debt at more than $36 trillion and climbing, possible recession on the horizon, the development of the digital dollar, central bank digital currency, it's more critical now than ever before to safeguard your assets like your cash savings and retirement accounts with physical gold. Opening a gold IRA is one of the best ways to secure your wealth and create a stable financial future. Stop worrying about your retirements and the markets and cash savings in the bank. Feel confident, prepared, and in control with physical gold and, yes, silver. Give my friends at United Gold Group a call. That number is 800-753-8534. Mention Mottek, and you can get $1,000 worth of silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now, 800-753-8534. or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. Stock market rallying again today with the S&P 500 briefly popping into record high territory and ending the day just below an all-time high for that broadly based index. The S&P 500 closed at 49 points, settling at 6,141, just a fraction below the all-time high. The Dow also popped today at more than 400 points to 4,387. The NASDAQ gained 194, settling at 20,168. Quite an impressive rebound for the markets this year, and especially over the last week, following all the nervousness in the Middle East, which, of course, is still an area of attention. The price of oil, meanwhile, has pulled back from its recent bounce, right now hovering at around $6,542 a barrel. Precious metals, meanwhile, also been popping lately, and as we just talked about, platinum getting the attention today, up nearly $25 at $1,424.50. Silver hovering at $36.56, and gold at $3,336 and change. Another feature of trading today was attention focused on Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, who the past couple of days spent time testifying before Congress. His testimony before the House Financial Services Committee as well as the Senate Banking Committee. The Fed chairman now heads into his next challenge. According to CNBC, a potential threat that President Trump could undermine his authority by naming his pick to head the central bank in the final year of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's term. Following a lot of intense criticism, Wall Street's been buzzing over the potential for a shadow chair or someone the president could install as a central bank gadfly until the Fed chairman's term expires. A report today indicated that President Trump is considering naming the successor sooner than expected in an attempt to influence interest rate policy. President Trump has been pushing for the Fed chairman to lower rates. The Fed chairman said it's too soon to lower rates based on his testimony this week. Fed chairman, mostly CNBC noted, breezed through 2 hearings on Capitol Hill this week, but now is facing an important challenge as he testified just yesterday before the Senate Banking Committee, holding generally cordial exchanges with Senate lawmakers. President Trump was at the NATO summit in The Hague lobbying his latest attacks on the Fed chairman, someone that he had nominated for the Fed job nearly 8 years ago. President Trump said, "I think he's terrible." That was his assessment of Fed Chairman Powell when he was asked during a news conference about his intentions for the next Fed leader. President Trump then called Powell, in his words, a very average mentally person, adding, in his words, he has a low IQ for what he does and is a very political guy. That's the assessment verbatim from President Trump on the current Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. President Trump added, and again, I'm quoting the president here, "I think he's a very stupid person, actually," end quote. Following the intense criticism, Wall Street's been buzzing over a potential shadow chair or someone the president could install. In the meantime, until Powell's term expires, by the way, which won't happen until May 2026. Traders today accelerating bets on rate cuts this year with 3 reductions now at about a 60% odds, according to CNBC, compared to a strong likelihood of just 2 a few days ago. This is CNBC quoting data from CME Group data. Treasury yields tumbled at the shorter end of the curve today, which is where the Fed has its influence, falling much more than those at the long end. The yield on the 10-year note now at 4.24%. It also pulled back today, and the dollar, as was noted earlier, was down sharply against other major currencies, hitting a 3-year low today. President Trump also confirmed that he has a list of potential Fed Chair Powell's successors down to 3 or 4 people without naming the finalist. The potential candidates has been widely reported. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is one of them. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett, the former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, and as a dark horse in-house pick Christopher Waller, who is a President Trump appointee serving as a governor of the Fed and recently has been an advocate for lower interest rates. Treasury Secretary Bessent's been considered a front-runner in some circles. Those sources familiar with the president's thinking say that is not necessarily the case. Secretary Bessent himself has said he's not interested in that job, though that could change if President Trump would ask him to take it, according to CNBC. Also, a report in the Wall Street Journal last night suggested that former World Bank President David Malpass also is in the running for Fed chair. The Wall Street Journal report indicated that President Trump is considering naming the successor sooner than expected in an attempt to influence interest rate policy. White House officials did not respond to a request for comment beyond President Trump's remarks at that news conference at The Hague. Several issues making the president's desire to name a chair now an issue. For one, there are no immediate open positions, though Governor Adriana Kugler's term ends in January of 26. Powell's term as governor itself does not expire until 2028, though the chair term runs out next year. Stay tuned. We're going to follow this drama, of course, here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. In the meantime, we're watching what's happening with platinum prices surging to an 11-year high, mostly on supply concerns, but also what we just talked about is also a factor. Platinum soaring to the highest we've seen since 2014 today, fueled by supply concerns and a wave of speculative buying, as we discussed with Barry Stuppler a moment ago. Earlier this month, platinum surged past $1,200 an ounce for the first time in 4 years, and now has blown past $1,400 for the first time in about 11 years. Price of gold, meanwhile, kissed a record high above $3,500 just about a month or so ago. It's pulled back now to $3,336 and change, down about $10 here at the moment. We're also following the price of oil very closely, of course, given the nervousness in the Middle East with the ceasefire between Israel and Iran holding at the moment, and the Strait of Hormuz is open. The price of oil right now hovering just above $65 a barrel. Oil company stocks have come under pressure recently, despite the recent spike in oil prices and now, of course, the recent drop following the ceasefire, which continues to hold. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang. That's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Then at 6 o'clock, I'll be back on the air with Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission, for the Just Help One radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. Be sure to stay tuned and support the Union Rescue Mission. Go to justhelpone.org. I'll be back with more at 4 tomorrow afternoon right here on Mottek On Money, 790 KBC.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
Inside the opening 45 seconds. What a goal! Jack McGlynn with that cannon of a left foot.
Never miss a game.
What a start for the United States.
Shot for distance. What a goal!
Never miss a moment.
Exquisite from the San Diegan. Can he finish? Yes, he can! Yeah!
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.